Commander Lyra Vex stood at the command bridge of the Celestial Vanquisher, her piercing violet eyes fixed on the holographic display of yet another insignificant planet. Her tall, athletic frame cast an imposing shadow across the metallic floor as she crossed her arms, her chrome-plated battle armor catching the soft blue glow of the ship's ambient lighting. "Another primitive world?" she asked, her voice carrying that familiar tone of boredom she'd developed after conquering her 37th star system. "Report, Captain Storm." Captain Nick Storm, her most trusted officer, stepped forward with a data crystal in hand. "The planet designate is Earth, Commander. Atmosphere nitrogen-oxygen mix. Technology level pre-stellar. Military capability." She paused, allowing herself a small chuckle. "Barely worth mentioning." The bridge crew, all members of the legendary stellar Amazonian fleet, shared knowing smiles. Their civilization had long since evolved beyond the need for males, having perfected genetic engineering centuries ago. Each warrior was a perfect specimen of feminine strength and intelligence, trained from birth in the arts of war and conquest. "Show me their largest military installation," Commander Vex ordered, running her fingers through her silver-streaked black hair. The holographic display shifted, zooming in on a sprawling complex surrounded by primitive metal vehicles and aircraft. "These Earthlings still use combustion engines," Lieutenant Aurora Vale exclaimed from her sensor station, not bothering to hide her amusement. "And their weapons? They haven't even mastered basic plasma technology." Commander Vex raised an eyebrow, her lips curling into a slight smirk. "And their warriors? Show me their finest." The display changed again, showing various military training exercises. The bridge erupted in laughter as they watched soldiers struggling with what appeared to be basic endurance drills. "By the Sacred Sisters," Captain Storm exclaimed between fits of laughter. "They're practically crawling. Our cadets show more prowess in their sleep." Commander Vex raised a hand, silencing the bridge crew. "What of their leadership? Their command structure?" "Most peculiar," Commander Captain Storm replied, regaining her composure. "They appear to have a binary gender system, with both females and males in positions of authority." "Males?" Commander Vex's face twisted in confusion. "In positions of power." "How?" Quaint, she turned away from the display, her armor plates shifting smoothly with each movement. "Mark this sector for routine subjugation. Class D priority. Hardly worth deploying our elite units." As she started to walk away, a junior officer called out, "Commander, detecting unusual energy signatures from their largest population centers." "Probably just their primitive power generation systems," Commander Vex said dismissively. "Still, Captain Storm, prepare a stealth reconnaissance team. Let's at least follow protocol, even for such an obviously inferior civilization." Little did Commander Lyra Vex know, this routine conquest was about to challenge everything her civilization believed about strength, power, and the very nature of warfare itself. "Set course for Earth," she commanded, her voice echoing through the bridge. "Let's give these primitives the honor of becoming the 38th system under Amazonian rule." Captain Nick Storm led her stealth team through the darkened streets of what the locals called San Diego. Their advanced cloaking technology rendered them invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems, allowing them to observe these humans up close. "Squad leader reporting," came War Chief Kara Steele's voice through the neural comm. "You won't believe what we're seeing at their training facility, Captain." "Report," Storm commanded, her curiosity piqued by the unusual tone in Steele's voice. "These males, they're different from what we expected. We're observing what appears to be their elite warrior training ground. They call it a Marine Corps base." Storm activated her visor's remote viewing mode, linking to Steele's feed. The scene before her made her pause mid-step. A group of human males were engaged in what appeared to be a combat exercise, their movements precise and powerful. Their physical forms, while different from the Amazonian ideal, displayed an undeniable raw strength. "Interesting," Storm muttered. "Continue surveillance. Lieutenant Vale, what's your status at the civilian sector?" "Captain," Vale's voice carried an unfamiliar hesitation. "I'm at something called a construction site. These males, they're lifting materials that would require powered assistance on our world, with nothing but their natural strength." Storm frowned, switching between different team feeds. Each observation point revealed something new and increasingly perplexing about these human males. At a place called a gymnasium, they witnessed feats of strength that rivaled their own enhanced capabilities. At various sports arenas, displays of speed and agility that seemed impossible for an unaugmented species. Captain Storm to Commander Vex, she reported, keeping her voice steady despite her growing confusion. Initial reconnaissance shows some unexpected findings. Define unexpected. Captain Vex's sharp voice cut through the calm. In the males of this species, they're not what our initial scans suggested. They possess physical capabilities that she paused, choosing her words carefully. That warrant further investigation. A grunt of disbelief came through the calm. Surely you're not suggesting these primitives pose any actual challenge? Before Storm could respond, War Chief Steele's voice cut in. Captain, you need to see this. Storm switched feeds again. A human male was engaged in what appeared to be a training exercise, but the raw power and speed displayed made several of her scout team gasp. The male was moving through a complex obstacle course, carrying a wounded comrade on his shoulders, all while maintaining a pace that would challenge their own elite warriors. Their strength-to-weight ratio is remarkable, Vale added from her observation post. And their endurance. Captain, I've been watching the same group of construction workers for hours. They haven't taken any enhancement breaks or used any fatigue suppressors. Storm found herself moving closer to a military training facility, her own curiosity getting the better of her. Through the chain-link fence, she watched as human males engaged in hand-to-hand combat training. Their movements were different from Amazonian combat forms, but undeniably effective. Commander Storm reported, her voice carrying a note of respect she hadn't expected to feel. I recommend we upgrade this reconnaissance mission. There's more to these humans than our initial scans indicated. You sound impressed. Captain Commander Vex's voice dripped with sarcasm. Don't tell me these primitive males have caught your attention. Storm watched as a particularly skilled human demonstrated a complex fighting technique to others. Permission to speak freely, Commander. Granted. We may need to reconsider our approach to this conquest. These humans, particularly their males, display capabilities that could make standard subjugation protocols problematic. A long pause followed before Commander Vex responded. Very well, Captain. Expand your reconnaissance. I want to know everything about their military capabilities, especially these males you find so fascinating. Storm couldn't help but notice the hint of curiosity that had crept into her commander's voice. As she watched another display of human male physical prowess, she realized that this mission was becoming far more interesting than anyone had anticipated. All scouts, maintain position, she ordered. Let's see what else these Earth males can do. Captain Nick Storm crouched on the rooftop of the Marine Corps training facility, her cloaking field shimmering slightly in the early morning light. Below her, a scene was unfolding that challenged everything she thought she knew about combat prowess. That's him, Lieutenant Vale whispered through the neural comm. Captain James Rodriguez, the one they call the Mountain. Storm's enhanced vision focused on the human male leading the training session. Captain Rodriguez stood at what their scans indicated was 6A, his frame carrying 220 pounds of carefully honed muscle. But it wasn't his size that caught her attention, it was the way he moved. War Chief Steele, are you recording this? Storm asked, her voice unusually tense. Every moment, Captain. The commander needs to see this. Rodriguez was demonstrating close-quarters combat techniques to a group of Marines. His movements were fluid, precise, and carried a raw power that made Storm's combat instincts tingle. He threw his sparring partner, a man nearly his own size, as if the other human weighed nothing. Their technique is unusual, Storm commented, trying to maintain her professional detachment. Notice how they use their body mass differently than our warriors. Vale's voice carried a note of fascination. They don't rely on enhancement fields or neural boosters. That's pure physical ability. Storm watched as Rodriguez moved through a series of combat drills. The human captain's shirt was soaked with sweat, another alien concept to the Amazonians who relied on thermal regulation systems. Yet he showed no signs of slowing down. Listen to this, Steele cut in, patching through the audio from ground level. Rodriguez's voice carried clearly through their comm systems. In combat, you won't always have tech to rely on. Your body, your instincts, your will to survive, sometimes that's all you've got. And sometimes that's all you need. Storm felt an unexpected shiver run down her spine. The words eerily echoed the ancient teachings of her own people before they'd become reliant on technological enhancement. Captain Vale's voice was hesitant. Have you noticed their recovery rate? They train until complete muscle failure, but return the next day stronger, without regeneration chambers or cellular restoration. Storm had noticed. She'd been watching this facility for 3 days now, and the same humans returned each day, pushing themselves beyond what should be possible for an unaugmented species. Rodriguez was now demonstrating a particularly complex takedown move. Your enemy might be bigger, stronger, more advanced, he called out to his troops. Doesn't matter. Adapt, overcome, never quit. Remind you of anyone? Steele asked, a hint of amusement in her voice. Storm ignored the obvious comparison to Commander Vex's famous speeches. She was too busy processing what she was seeing. Rodriguez had moved on to the obstacle course, leading his unit through what they called the Crucible. Their entire training philosophy, Storm mused aloud, it's based on pushing natural limitations, no artificial enhancement, no genetic modification, just pure determination. Vale finished. Storm watched as Rodriguez carried 2 of his injured comrades through the course, his muscles straining, sweat pouring down his face. By Amazonian standards, this should have been impossible without at least a Class 2 strength enhancer. Captain Storm to Commander Vex, she finally called in, knowing she couldn't delay this report any longer. Report, Captain. Have you finished wasting time observing these primitives? Storm took a deep breath. Commander, I'm sending you live feed now. Focus on the human male designated as Captain Rodriguez. There was a long pause as Commander Vex received the transmission. Storm continued her observation, watching as Rodriguez now led his unit in what they called hand-to-hand combat training. The raw power displayed made even War Chief Steele mutter in appreciation. This is unexpected. Commander Vex finally responded, her voice carrying an unfamiliar note of uncertainty. Commander, I recommend an immediate reevaluation of our conquest protocols, Storm said, watching as Rodriguez easily lifted a fallen comrade and a heavy pack, together weighing more than himself. These humans, especially their males, possess capabilities that our standard metrics failed to detect. Are you suggesting these unaugmented primitives could pose a challenge to our warriors? Captain Vex's voice carried a dangerous edge. Storm chose her next words carefully. I'm suggesting, Commander, that we may have discovered something unprecedented. Their physical capabilities, combined with their tactical adaptability and what appears to be unlimited endurance. She paused as Rodriguez began a new exercise, one that involved carrying massive logs as a team while navigating complex obstacles. Continue, Captain Vex prompted, her curiosity evident despite her skepticism. Commander, in my 20 years of conquest reconnaissance, I've never seen anything like this. They train without safety protocols, push beyond normal pain thresholds, and somehow emerge stronger. And this Captain Rodriguez, he's not unique. He's just an example of what they're all capable of. The command channel fell silent, except for the background sounds of human warriors pushing themselves to their limits. Storm realized she was holding her breath, waiting for her commander's response. Finally, Commander Vex spoke. Return to the ship, Captain. Bring your complete observations, and bring me everything you have on this Captain Rodriguez. Perhaps it's time we arranged a more direct evaluation of these human capabilities. Storm stood, taking one last look at the training ground below. Rodriguez was now leading his unit in what appeared to be a victory celebration, their loud chants echoing across the facility. Understood, Commander, she replied, signaling her team to withdraw. As she prepared to leave, she heard Rodriguez's voice one final time. Remember, Marines, it's not about being the biggest or the most advanced. It's about never giving up, never backing down, and never accepting defeat. Storm couldn't help but smile beneath her cloaking field. The coming days were about to become very interesting indeed. Commander Vex paced the bridge of the celestial vanquisher, her steps echoing with barely contained frustration. The holographic displays surrounding her showed various scenes from Earth sports competitions, construction projects, military exercises, and every single one of them challenged her fundamental beliefs. Pause playback, she commanded, stopping at a scene of something called the World's Strongest Man competition. This can't be correct. They're lifting weights that would require at least a Class 3 enhancement suit. Captain Storm stood quietly, hands clasped behind her back. The data is verified, Commander. No enhancement technology detected. Pure biological capability. Around the bridge, other officers watched with poorly concealed fascination. A group of them huddled around a display showing Olympic weightlifting records, whispering among themselves. Lieutenant Vale Vex snapped, causing the young officer to jump. Stop rewinding that strongman competition and return to your post. Yes, Commander, but... Have you seen what they call the Atlas Stones? Without any gravitic assistance, they... Enough. Vex slammed her hand on the command console. We are the stellar Amazonian fleet. We have conquered 37 systems through superior strength, technology, and discipline. We will not be distracted by these. Impressive specimens, War Chief Steele suggested, earning several poorly suppressed snickers from the crew. Vex turned to face her warriors, violet eyes blazing. The sight that met her only increased her concern. Her elite crew, the finest warriors in the fleet, were clustered around various displays like fascinated younglings at their first combat demonstration. Look at their construction crews. Have you seen their rescue workers? They call this CrossFit no enhancement fields at all. Their firefighters carry people out of burning buildings wearing primitive protective gear. Silence, Vex commanded, but for the first time in her career she noticed hesitation in her crew's response. They turned to face her, but their eyes kept darting back to the displays. Captain Storm stepped forward. Commander, perhaps we should discuss the implications of these observations. Our standard protocols may need revision when dealing with... With what, Captain? Male's Vex spat the word like a curse. Need I remind you that we evolved beyond the need for males centuries ago? We perfected our genetics, enhanced our capabilities. Yet they achieved similar results through pure biological means. Storm countered carefully. Their dual-gender approach seems to create a different kind of strength. Did you see their military rescue operations? Males charging into danger, carrying their wounded companions. Basic animal instinct, Vex dismissed, but her voice lacked conviction. Commander, Storm pressed, 3 of our scouts have requested permission to observe their athletic competitions in person. 5 more want to study their military training methods. Even War Chief Steele has expressed interest in... What? Vex whirled to face her most hardened warrior. Steele straightened, meeting her commander's gaze. Their combat techniques are uniquely effective, Commander. They've developed fighting styles that compensate for their lack of technological enhancement. It could be valuable to... To what? Learn from primitives. Vex's voice dripped with sarcasm, but she couldn't help noticing how many of her crew nodded thoughtfully at Steele's words. The bridge fell silent as a new recording began playing. A human male emergency responder rushing into a burning building, emerging minutes later carrying 2 unconscious humans. No protective field. No strength enhancement. Just raw courage and physical power. Vex watched her crew's reactions carefully. She saw the admiration in their eyes, the growing respect, and it filled her with deep unease. Everything they'd built, their entire society's structure, was based on the superiority of their enhanced all-female civilization. Captain Storm, she said finally, her voice tight with control, prepare a direct contact protocol. If these human males are as capable as our observations suggest, perhaps it's time we tested them, personally. The eager reactions of her crew only confirmed her worst fears. This mission had become far more complicated than a simple conquest. It had become a threat to everything they believed about strength, gender, and power. And somewhere on Earth, blissfully unaware of the storm about to break, Captain James Rodriguez led another group of Marines through their training, inadvertently challenging the very foundations of an interstellar civilization. Commander Vex stood before the assembled leadership of Earth's military forces in a secure facility hastily established in Nevada's desert. Her silver armor gleamed under the harsh lights, a stark contrast to the simple dress uniforms of the human officers. Captain Storm flanked her right side, while War Chief Steele stood at her left. "So let me understand this correctly," General Sarah Banks said, leaning forward across the conference table. "You want to test our best warriors against yours, in some sort of combat challenge?" "Precisely," Vex replied, her voice carrying across the room with practiced authority. "3 challenges, your finest warriors against ours. The outcome will determine Earth's status in the galactic community." Captain Rodriguez sat near the end of the table, his presence requested specifically by the alien commander. His dark eyes studied the Amazonian warriors with professional interest. "And if we refuse?" he asked, his deep voice drawing every Amazonian eye in the room. Commander Vex's lips curved into a slight smile. "Refusing is your right, Captain Rodriguez, though it would be unfortunate." The room temperature seemed to drop several degrees at her thinly veiled threat. "The challenge is," Captain Storm quickly interjected, shooting her commander a concerned look. "First, a test of raw strength. Second, combat prowess. Third, endurance. No weapons, no enhancements on either side." General Banks glanced at Rodriguez, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. "And your warriors will deactivate all their technological advantages. Fight purely on physical merit." War Chief Steele stepped forward, removing her enhancement gauntlet with a theatrical flourish. "We welcome the opportunity to prove our natural superiority." Rodriguez stood up, his movement drawing all attention. Even without armor, his physical presence matched the Amazonians. "Name the time and place." "1 solar rotation," Commander Vex announced. "Your Nevada test range. 3 of your best against 3 of ours." Back on the Celestial Vanquisher, preparation for the challenge sparked near chaos. Warriors crowded the training decks, practicing combat moves without their usual enhancements. The medical bay was flooded with requests for temporary enhancement deactivation. "They're actually excited about this," Commander Vex muttered, watching from her private observation deck. "My own warriors, eager to fight like primitives." Captain Storm approached, carrying latest readiness reports. "Commander, we have a situation. Nearly every warrior in the fleet has volunteered for the challenge team." What Vex spun around. "Even the elite guards?" "Especially the elite guards. War Chief Steele has been running qualification trials for the past 3 hours. The competition for team positions is intense." Below them, a group of warriors sparred without their usual gravitational assisters, learning to compensate for natural weight and balance. Others lifted weights without strength amplification, their faces showing unfamiliar strain. "This is unprecedented," Vex said, watching her crew adapt to fighting without technology. "They've never shown such enthusiasm for combat training." Perhaps Storm suggested carefully, they see something worthy in proving themselves without enhancement, something pure about natural strength. Vex's expression darkened. "Like these humans? These males?" "Like warriors," Storm corrected, "regardless of species or gender." The ship's intercom crackled. "Commander, War Chief Steele requests your presence in Training Bay 3. Final team selections are ready for approval." As they walked to the training bay, they passed dozens of warriors practicing human military hand-to-hand techniques, copied from their reconnaissance footage. Some had even adopted the humans' counting cadence. The doors to Training Bay 3 slid open, revealing War Chief Steele standing before the 3 selected warriors. They were the finest physical specimens of the Amazonian fleet, now stripped of their technological advantages. "Our challenge team," Steele announced proudly, "ready to face Earth's champions on equal terms." Commander Vex studied them carefully. Without their enhancement fields, without their strength amplifiers, they looked different, more raw, more real. "Tomorrow," she addressed the chosen warriors, "you face Earth's finest. You carry not just the honor of our fleet, but the very foundation of our society's beliefs. Do not fail." As she turned to leave, she heard one of the selected warriors ask another, "Did you see the footage of Captain Rodriguez's combat demonstration?" "Focus on the mission," Vex snapped, but she couldn't help noticing the admiration in the warrior's voice. Tomorrow couldn't come soon enough. Tomorrow they would finally put these humans, these males, in their proper place. But deep in her gut, a feeling she hadn't experienced in centuries began to grow doubt. The Nevada desert sun beat down mercilessly on the makeshift arena. Commander Vex watched from her command platform as Captain Rodriguez stepped into the circle, his muscled frame radiating quiet confidence. Beside him stood two other human champions, Navy SEAL Thomas Blake and Force Recon Marine Lisa Chen. War Chief Steele led the Amazonian team herself, plus their two strongest warriors, Nova Prime and Luna Dash. Without their enhancement fields, their movements carried a new, untested quality. First challenge strength, the announcement echoed across the arena. Rodriguez stepped forward, matching against Steele. The challenge lifting and carrying massive concrete blocks across the arena. No technology, no assists. The crowd gasped as both warriors hoisted their loads. Steele's face showed unfamiliar strain, while Rodriguez moved with practiced power. Step by step they crossed the arena, but halfway through, Steele faltered. Rodriguez finished first, setting his block down with controlled precision. "Point Earth," Captain Storm announced, her voice carrying a note of fascination. Commander Vex's fingers dug into her command chair. Impossible. The combat challenge came next. Lisa Chen faced Nova Prime in hand-to-hand combat. Chen's movements flowed like water, using Nova's superior strength against her. 3 minutes later, Nova Prime hit the ground, Chen's arm locked across her throat. Point Earth. The final challenge, endurance. A brutal obstacle course designed to push both species to their limits. Blake and Luna Dash raced through mud, walls, and burning obstacles. Neck and neck, pushing harder, neither willing to yield. Luna reached the final wall first, but her unpracticed muscles, stripped of their usual enhancement, betrayed her. Blake pulled ahead, crossing the finish line seconds before she collapsed. Challenge complete. Earth 3. Amazonians 0. Silence fell over the arena. Commander Vex stood slowly, her face unreadable. Captain Rodriguez approached the command platform, standing tall despite his exhaustion. "Well fought," he said simply, extending his hand. Vex stared at the offered hand, then at her warriors. War Chief Steele was helping Luna Dash up, both warriors grinning despite their defeat. Nova Prime and Lisa Chen were already discussing combat techniques. And through it all, she saw something she'd never expected: respect, flowing both ways. Captain Rodriguez, Vex said, her voice carrying across the silent arena. "It seems we have much to learn from each other." She took his hand, feeling the raw strength in his grip. "Earth will not be our 38th conquest. Instead, I propose an alliance." The crowd erupted in cheers. Captain Storm stepped forward, unable to hide her smile. "Commander." "Prepare the diplomatic protocols," Vex ordered, but her usual sharpness had softened. "And arrange for an exchange program. Our warriors clearly have much to learn about fighting without enhancement. And perhaps we have some things to teach as well." Rodriguez finished, still holding her hand. Vex found herself returning his smile. Indeed, strength comes in many forms, it seems. Later, aboard the Celestial Vanquisher, Commander Vex watched her warriors mingling with the human military representatives. War Chief Steele was demonstrating their enhancement technology to a fascinated group of Marines. Captain Chen was teaching Nova Prime something called Aikido. And everywhere, the energy was electric with possibility. "Quite a change from our initial assessment," Captain Storm commented, joining her commander at the observation window. "The universe enjoys its jokes," Vex replied. "We came to conquer, only to find." "Partners," Storm suggested, watching Rodriguez explain weight training principles to a group of eager Amazonian warriors. "Partners," Vex agreed, tasting the strange new word. "Send word to the council. The galaxy just became a much more interesting place." Below them, human and Amazonian warriors continued their exchanges, each learning from the other, strength meeting strength in ways neither side had imagined possible. And in their midst, Captain Rodriguez caught Commander Vex's eye, offering a respectful nod that carried promises of future possibilities. The conquest that never was had become something far more valuable, the beginning of an alliance that would reshape the galaxy, one challenge at a time.